So you got another topic for us, James?
Well,
that we want
I think
to discuss?
next is pop topic.
Oh, it is.
Uh-oh.
Here's our pop topic segment.
That's me, and I'm going to share a little bit about what happened last weekend, and we'll get into my topic and some of the questions I have for you guys. So I was asked early last week to do my first funeral. It was for a family member, so it wasn't necessarily a church service. It was a graveside committal service for my wife's aunt's father-in-law. And he was a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and they asked me to do the service. So I did the service. It was really great. It was out in Riverside National Cemetery, and I tried my best to honor him, as a veteran.
Was this your first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And as a family man and as a grandfather and a great-grandfather. But my question today for us is about veterans, really. When we talk about veterans, I think the vast majority of the opinion and perception in this country, at least, is that we don't do a good enough job taking care of them. And I can't speak into that, like why that perception is there and whether or not that actually happens. I mean, I know that I'm sure billions of dollars are spent taking care of them. The VA hospitals are some of the largest hospitals I've seen, but of what kind of service they're getting, I wouldn't be an expert in that.
Yeah.
So, but my question is why do you think that perception is there? And then as Christians, what response or what ethical obligation would we have to treat a veteran or take care of them in some way?
Yeah, I think the perception is there largely due to, at least in this part of the country, especially San Diego, LA area, there's a lot of homeless people who are veterans. And that seems to suggest a pattern, right? That these people are not taken care of. And as an outsider looking into this situation, I've been given the impression by others that it was much worse and it's gotten better. I don't know how much better, but it was much worse definitely for like the Vietnam vets, for example. I know Chris Carmen might have an opinion, might be able to inform us of a few things to help this conversation move forward.
Yeah, just one number to be working with. The number of homeless veterans in America was estimated at 49,933 in January 2014, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty bad.
50,000 vets who serve the country are homeless. So what, you got a word for us, Chris?
I think one of the big problems you have with the VA is just the amount of bureaucracy. I mean, it's just out of control, really. And then we kind of, I don't remember if we did touch on it last time or not.
Yeah,
but
slightly.
The whole VA scandal that broke a couple years ago, and how they were just kind of shuffling people around until they died instead of actually providing them with care. And when you have that kind of negligence and incompetence, I don't think it matters how much money you spend.
Sure. I mean, even if we wanted reform, I imagine how long that would take. How slowly that would get to the actual veteran who needs that kind of support.
Yeah, bureaucracy, there's a good and a bad to it, right? The good side of bureaucracy is it moves so slow that it's hard to take advantage of it in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But it also moves so slow that it's hard to do anything good with it, right? If bureaucracy is at the heart of this matter, which it very well could be, it's what do? Do you fire a lot of people and get a few people to do the job of what had been many people's job, and then can you trust those few people? Do they, with less checks and balances from bureaucracy, can they be trusted, and will they do a good job? Will they mean to do a good job and do a terrible job?
Right.
Just not knowing what they're doing. This is an issue I don't know enough about. I'm hoping Chris knows.
Well, I think that the part of the problem is the checks and balances weren't there in the first place. A lot of the people who were found to be responsible, or at least turning a blind eye to this, weren't really held accountable for it. They were shuffled around and went back to their jobs, and nobody's really been fired or, made to account for anything.
But what we do know for sure is that Bernie Sanders is a hero, and he came in and fixed all that, right, Chris?
So the interesting thing here that we have there is from newsmax.com, right, by Jerry Shaw. And one of the interesting homeless statistics that we may not be aware of. Returning vets are twice as likely to become chronically homeless as other Americans, and women vets are 4 times as likely to become homeless as male veterans. And as a total, women veterans make up about 8% of the veteran homeless population there. So and that can be found newsmax.com, 10 statistics you didn't know about veteran homelessness. So we've seen this a lot, and where we live and where we did ministry throughout my junior high and high school years, homelessness was a huge issue. And then just a little bit farther from there, you would see police officers transporting homeless people out of their city, right? And so homelessness is treated as a nuisance and as an sweep under the rug issue, right? And I think that tends to be the way that we approach it there.
It's illegal to be homeless in some places.
Right, sure. Right. And so because this problem has surfaced and been the way that it has, these issues have, come to light, and the question becomes, what do we do? How do we do it? Clearly, I think we would all agree that it's deplorable the way that it's being done now, and it's not successful there. But how much of an onus does the church take for homelessness, especially when we would have some churches that would affirm some type of pacifism, right? That kind of this virtuous ethic that is anti-war, and the reality still being, though, that we deal with homelessness, and our veteran brothers and sisters are going through this. So
I mean, that's kind of my question, right? I mean, homelessness is almost an easier question to deal with for Christians and for churches, right?
Right.
Like that, we're just going to churches should do their part, do the best they can to reach that community and help them.
And this is one of the things I think that is profitable. One of the very ideas that we can be doing is this idea of what we just talked about, right? A fast food chain being able to come into a church there. And that's where you see these types of ideas really begin to take value, because they're rooted in something practical. And I think that's the value of those types of things. And so
you're saying like leading to jobs for veterans or something like that? I
mean, something, right? If the big struggle, right? So, Chris, how many people in our family and friends are in military? Probably like 24.
I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head.
Right, but I mean, some disproportionately high number for the amount of involvement we have in any type of military, political thing, anything like that. And the people that I've spoken to, the biggest problem that they've always dealt with is readjustment back into society. And a good friend, one of my closest friends, is just a huge adrenaline junkie now, because he's telling me the idea of getting shot at, when that stuff courses through your veins, you don't have that same type of adrenaline when you get back. And so now he rides a motorcycle just to be able to have some type of feeling familiar to being deployed in Iraq.
I mean, they go to different forms of training to be disciplined and programmed into a soldier to be on the field. Mm-hmm. They don't get the same sort of training to come home, right? We fashion people for war. We don't fashion them to come back from war. And, another big element of this problem was, PTSD wasn't taken very seriously until the 90s. It was spoken of before the 90s, but I don't think people took it very seriously. And PTSD, so like a lot of your Vietnam vets who come back, they're struggling with PTSD. Our society isn't taking that seriously. We're not doing anything about it. They're left on their own. It's hard to deal with something so severe on your own, and then you become homeless because you can't operate the way society wants you to operate. For some.
Yeah. So
let me ask. Not to interrupt. Let me ask you this: all the churches we're connected with, or not even connected, just know of. I mean, have you heard of a ministry to veterans?
Not specifically.
What about a ministry? I mean, like he's saying that the biggest issue is readjustment. No one's taking care of that.
Right.
Then why isn't the churches? Maybe churches in San Diego, for example, have readjustment ministries
for like Navy vets, and I think this would be almost like a celebrate recovery, or some type of thing where veterans can gather.
It's a great analogy,
and talk about that type of thing, and it would be
read the letter to the Philippians.
Yeah, it would be great, and so that type of I think is a pretty easy way to get going, and I think it would be a fantastic ministry of which to be a part, and it wouldn't be that hard to start. I mean, it would take a couple pots of coffee and then a couple dozen donuts, and then you can have a ministry already going.
But none of us have ever even heard of that happening. Yeah, correct?
No, we haven't.
Not in any official setting. I mean, I know people who have done it there, and we've done it with people. I mean, we have done it with like friends who are basically family for us. We've been able to sit down and talk and kind of just readjust. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be. Again, so here's a kind of a black eye again that the church is facing with this reality.
Yeah.
That this is a huge issue and it's prevalent. And
just homelessness itself. I mean, within 10 miles of my house, there's got to be 30 churches. Why do we have homeless people where I live? Right? We have plenty of buildings. Right? Not every homeless person is going to want to be in those buildings, but I bet if we made a welcoming atmosphere, most would come. Right?
Yeah. So there's an interesting question. Where we grew up, there was a homeless couple that used to come into our church all the time, and their names were Mike and Ginger, and they loved to be a part of just kind of the atmosphere and what was going on. And when asked, why are you homeless, they had just said, because it's easier to be homeless. And they, for a time, this would have been in the mid-90s, right? They lived under the 710 freeway, under a bridge there. And my dad would tell me about how he would go and have lunch with them and just kind of the experience that was like. And so how do we, or I guess for those people who desire not to be housed, right, I guess the thing that we do to help is just to kind of continue to meet on their terms, right? Go have lunch with them where they feel comfortable having lunch with. And I think the most important aspect of that, and especially in kind of the homeless crisis that we face in Orange County, is huge. I mean, it's like oddly huge for how affluent we are as a community there. We seem to talk about, I guess I always want to make sure that we don't ever, as people who work in the pastorate, talk about it as if there's a lack of dignity, right, associated with that. And so it becomes an interesting balance of trying to be helpful, be sincere, but also let people make their own decisions. But and then it dovetails right back into mental illness.
If you're gonna
they're all connected today.
If you're gonna do this ministry, nobody, not a single person that I know, wants to be patronized. Yeah. So don't patronize.
Patronize me.
Homeless.
I'm a fan. No, I'm a fan.
Yeah. Sometimes we make this mistake of going into homeless ministry where we are going, and it comes off patronizing, where we're going to come with all these gifts and we're going to be saviors of you, and we're coming,
not serving you, we're going to save you.
Yeah, and we're coming out of our communities and entering yours, right? And that's a favor to you because we're so awesome, right? You need to ditch that. If you're going to do homeless ministry, you need to come as a friend. It's okay to bear gifts, but bear them as genuine gifts, and don't overdo it
with no expectations.
It's like, if you ever received a gift that was way too good for you, like that becomes very uncomfortable in itself. When my wife and I got married, somebody bought us a very expensive pair of watches, and I'm talking very extravagant. And I did not know what to do with that, because I'm not going to wear this watch, because that's not who I am. Not economically who I am, but personally not who I am. And so
you didn't think to hold on to that for me, huh?
Right. So what my wife and I did at the time,
Josh would wear them, I promise.
We didn't need watches. We needed diapers, and we needed rent, and we needed all kinds of things, because that was our situation in life. And so we took a bunch of pictures of us wearing the watches and doing things with them for a day. Then we put them right back in their case. We took them back to the store they were purchased, and we got the refund for them. And then we bought diapers and such things. That's what we needed at the time.
And I hope that person isn't listening to this podcast.
I don't mind now if he is. So obviously a different situation, a bit of privilege in that situation, but the idea is come bearing gifts that are appropriate to the context and meet the actual need. You don't need, so if you're going to do ministry, do it not with this idea that we're doing a favor for you, that we're coming out of our context and entering yours, and don't do it with this notion that you can come bearing great gifts. Come bearing appropriate gifts, and come to be friends. That's what's needed.
Yeah, it's an interesting, poverties.com is an interesting website where a bunch of guys who are local to the area will gather, sell shirts, gather the profits from these shirts, and make supply runs to LA. And I was talking with one of the founders of it, and he was telling me that when he would go out for years, it was all about this idea of bringing food, bringing meals for them. And then he sat down to actually talk to one of the guys one day and asked him what he needed. And the guy said, what would be really cool is if you just had a book. And just because there was so much standing around during the day, and there just wasn't that much to do. And so there was this desire to kind of be able to engage in something that would captivate and take away from the reality that they
have some entertainment.
Yeah. And so he said, so I just started bringing up books there, and it became a very helpful and a very kind of hospitable friendship that has developed out of that. And they're at poverties.com. You should check them out. They're doing a lot of good stuff.
Now, the plus side of that,
Poverties?
POVERTEES.com.
Yeah, we can include that in the link. We can include all these links in the
Yeah.
YouTube video description.
And what's important here is he asked what that person needed, and the answer was books. So what the listener shouldn't do is say, "I'm going to buy tons of books and give them to homeless people," right? Because that isn't going to necessarily address all those
Yeah, you
needs.
buy books for that guy.
Right, you're going to come off as I'm the educated one giving books to you non-educated people.
Sure.
Right? That's the danger there. You need to address the need as the context itself gives. Right.
Oh, that was a very riveting discussion.
Yeah.
That was a good addition, Garrett. So, well, we are nearing the final segment of our time today, and again, we are broadcasting out of Marion Ranch Records there, and you can find us at facebook.com/faithandwhatever, and you can also find our YouTube channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, and tell us what you would like to hear about in those comments, or what we could talk about, or tell us how much we suck. And then like and subscribe to us anyway. So our last game, or our segment today, is
The
our
best
is our
segment
fun
ever.
game that James is
We'll see.
oddly obsessed with. If you remember last week, the answer was King Eglon's Bowels, and so that earned James the nickname James the Scatman Yule.
No, it did not.
So we'll have T-shirts
According to
for
Josh,
you.
it
We'll
did.
have T-shirts for you that you can buy that says Scatman on them. Though that might be a little bit weird.
It's okay. They're from Poverties.
Like like Poop Man or something like that. So
Bippity bop.
Garrett wanted to take a run. Garrett was itching
Yeah, I was
to
really
take
excited.
a run at doing the 20 questions game for us this time. So hopefully you brought something a little bit better. Well,
Remember, you can the only hint you can give is just to give us a context.
Okay, all right, here we go. It's completely unrelated to anything we've done.
so it's not biblical.
Not biblical.
Great.
The answer just came out of me like let's just be interesting, possibly difficult and fascinating. So now you're asking me the category, right? That one's hard. I mean, fairly difficult to. I'm going to say, for the sake of a hint, geographical.
Geographical. Chris, we're probably going to need you in this one. So if you wouldn't mind joining us, Chris Carmen runs all of our tech stuff from behind the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I propose we take turns asking questions. I'll start. Western
Okay.
Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere. So Western Hemisphere, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Western Hemisphere.
Northern Hemisphere.
You have to make it yes or no.
Yeah, is it the Northern Hemisphere?
It is. It is.
Okay, so Northwest Hemisphere. That's good. Good
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm going to be mad if it's America. America.
Is it in the United States?
It is not.
Well, I'm out. That's about all I got.
I don't
the
care
only
about
guess.
anything outside the United States.
Is it? Is
I told
it?
that teacher lady the only thing I need to know.
Would
is
it be
US
in a
and
country considered the within the Americas?
Aren't they all the Americas? If it's in.
the Northwest Hemisphere,
I guess so.
The Pacific
Well,
Islands?
like Greenland.
Yeah, because I was trying to like.
Okay,
get
so
out
I'll say
islands.
yes.
Okay.
Someone keep me count.
You are.
You are. You're the.
That's question
You're game,
4.
right?
We're on question 5 now.
That's a breathing word.
It's something as a part of the. We said something in the Americas, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it something in Mexico?
It is not.
Canada.
Okay,
Chris?
America's top hat.
You should ask if it's in Canada. Or not.
America Junior.
Is it in Canada?
No.
See, how is this in the
The
Americas?
North Pole, isn't it?
I'm gonna punch you so hard. You're up,
It's question 6.
James.
That was 7, actually.
Okay, is this a landmark?
You'd have to better define that for me to answer that correctly,
Like a
or re-ask it in a more simple.
well, like
less
a,
generic.
Oh, let me make it more specific. Is it a naturally occurring landmark?
No.
Okay,
naturally occurring.
like the Grand Canyon would
right.
be.
So the idea is that it is man-made.
Is that a question?
No, I'm talking to James across you, but I was hoping you would give something away
No,
from
I'm
your
not
facial
going
expressions. Well, that clearly didn't work. This game is just awful.
to. Why do you feel that way? You have plenty of questions remaining.
All right. Is it a man-made whatever James said.
Thing.
Yeah. Object.
It is man-made.
All right.
All right, this is an official
So no
guess. I'm
aliens,
throwing it
right?
out there to my teammates. I'm thinking Panama Canal. Boom.
All right, Chris.
Do you make guesses, or do you just get all the way to...
We can do whatever.
Technically, by the 20th question, we have to ask, is it that
Okay.
thing?
All right. So, is it in? Nah. Man, I don't know. Is it a like a government landmark, like a monument type thing?
It's not commemorating anything.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking
So
for.
no.
Thank you.
Is it in an island country?
It is not.
I think we've successfully eliminated all of the northwestern hemisphere. It's not in the Americas.
Yeah, because you got
I
Central
said
America
yes
in
to
the
that.
Northwestern Hemisphere.
I said it was in the Americas.
But you said not Mexico, not America, not
Right,
Canada.
but Central America's in.
Ah, dang it.
Yeah, North
Central.
like Chile, kind of.
Oh, or South America too,
No.
right? You said America. When you said America,
South America is southern.
everything
hemisphere.
north
but it's
of
the northern
Ecuador.
hemisphere, so north of
Yeah.
the equator.
fair enough.
So like Brazil, Chile.
No.
No,
Those
I don't
places
know.
all be in the southern. Those places would all be in the southern hemisphere.
Yes.
Is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
My geography's not that bad, bro. I can tell you all
I
about
have a
first
feeling
century
this is gonna be
geography,
like
though.
in Honduras.
I think
It
you've
better
asked,
not be Atlantis. I'm going to be
Alien.
fictional. I think you've asked 12 questions.
All right, so
Jeez.
I think you're up, James.
No, I just asked one.
Which one?
I said, is it in an island country?
Oh, right. So it's somewhere in Central America, north of Ecuador.
Or it could be in the Caribbean.
Well, he said no island. I said no.
Oh,
to
yeah,
that.
that's right.
Okay. So what are the countries that are? I don't know.
I need to get out of.
No, we
Dumb
can't.
map.
We can't use a map, can we?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of cheap.
Apparently James can.
Yeah,
But we
that's
don't have
kinda-
enough questions to ask about every country in Central America.
Right.
So you got to narrow it down better than that.
Is it the Panama Canal?
It is.
Oh! Josh Carmen, 2 weeks in a
Oh.
row. The hater of this game is apparently the best at this
Well,
game.
I mean, James actually had it. So
He didn't ask officially.
I chose the Panama Canal because one of my favorite
Nice lob,
nonfiction
James.
books is The History of the Panama Canal. Super fascinating and disturbing about how that thing got down there.
Tell
Yeah.
me the disturbing part.
Well, I think it killed 150,000 people just building it through all these diseases in the jungle and stuff. Yellow fever.
You just laughed at all that, Josh.
Not the. No, you're awful.
Just interesting. Just
So,
fascinating.
just like work related.
Failed attempts. So I think it was FDR. So there was France tried it for, I don't know, 10,
It's
20
Teddy
years.
Roosevelt, not.
Teddy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Teddy Roosevelt. And there was just tons of disasters, and then America took it over. And remember, we had leased it for 100 years, and then just 5 years ago, we gave it to the country of Panama. Now, because of that, there's this fascinating culture of lots of Americans that live in that area, churches, a lot of Anglo-white culture, churches and things like that in this otherwise completely Central America country. So the book, which I don't have all the, it's just really fascinating. It's one about how that came to be. There was there was questions of tunnels and things like that back in turn of the century engineering. It was going to be in other countries at certain times and involve lakes, and yeah, it's just fascinating.
Seems like a
amazing.
giant headache to try
Yeah.
and build.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, do you want to remind us all the places that people can find us and speak with us?
It seems like we are reaching the end of episode number 2 of our podcast on faith and whatever. You can find us at youtube.com, or you can just type in faith and whatever podcast into the search bar. We should appear there, and then we will be on other podcast aggregates by the time this episode hits its full stride and full debut there. And so you can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/faith and whatever.
And faithandwhatever.com is
Is our
being
website. It's
built
coming
and
soon.
Coming soon.
Sure. So you want to tell them how they can reach you guys, your individual plugs there?
Yeah, sure. I'm on. So I have my own YouTube channel that I use for youth ministry type things. So I'm kind of passionate about. If you type in youth ministry,
Send all your hate there.
yeah, go ahead. If you type in youth ministry on YouTube, you get Doug Fields, a great guy by the way, but just talking about youth ministry to other 30-somethings on their computer. So I wanted to make sure there was something out there that when teenagers love YouTube, so make sure that there's something out there for a teenager to get some uplifting Christian content. So my
Good.
YouTube channel is Transformational Student Life. We call it TSL for short. You can find it by probably typing in Transformational Student Life. And then there's a Twitter, T Student Life, or at T Student Life. And
No underscores or anything? Just
Nope.
all one word, T Student Life.
Yep.
James?
And you can find me on Twitter at James Yule, Yule being Yuile. I'll be happy to vet questions from you and answer questions and bring some of that conversation to the podcast later. But also you can direct those things also to, for the time being, faithandwhatever@gmail.com.
Mhm.
We're going to come up with a better spot for your emails to go, but for now that's the working that's the working way of doing it. So
And I'm Josh Carman, moderator extraordinaire, and you can reach me at Josh_CARMAN on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we look forward to connecting with you on next week on topics about faith and whatever.
good night.
see ya.